Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to this session. And my guest today is Claire Tomlin, CEO of Clarion Search, based in Worcestershire. So welcome, Claire. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Katie.
So, Claire, would you mind just letting everybody know what you do and a little bit about your business?
So Clarion Search is a specific oil, gas, LNG, power, so energy commodities recruiter. I was an oil trader in the past, so it's an industry I've always worked in, and then I sort of turned poacher in 2009, worked for someone else, and then started Clarion Search in 2015. And we work very internationally. It's nearly all expat moves from one part of the globe to the other across sort of front office, not the engineering side, but the sort of more commercial interface of those big businesses.
Brilliant. And I think there's probably quite a lot of people, most of us, well, I say most of us, but a lot of us actually work, don't we, on the sort of client side and then move across. It's quite a natural transition actually into recruitment. So, yeah. And so tell us a little bit about why you sort of came into our world. How did you come to the Rocket program? What did you want from the Rocket program? What was it for you at that point?
Probably a proverbial kick where you shouldn't be kicked, to be honest. I'd been a one-man band since 2015, young kids, etc. And it was not a lifestyle business. It was a good income. It had all the flexibility that I needed, but it just was staying still, and there was no structure. I didn't really have a plan. And if you haven't got a destination in mind, every map in the world isn't going to help you. So I just needed a bit of focus, I think. I knew the business could be a lot bigger and better than I could on my own create. So I started looking around on LinkedIn in particular. Just, there's always adverts for scale your recruitment business, etc. And so I looked at lots of them and then Havered and thought, well, shall I, shan't I? And then I kind of resonated a bit with Centered Excellence and thought, right, okay, these ladies have been there, done it, got the t-shirt. They've done it themselves, therefore they must know how to help me do it. So that's kind of how it started.
Great, brilliant. And for you, so you had no real plan, no real defined goals. And again, I think that can be quite normal. You have ideas in your head, but you don't necessarily put it onto paper, do you? It's things that are going on. You're so busy in the day to day, the doing, that you don't necessarily have that time to sit back and say, right, okay, where is it that I want to get to, and how specifically am I going to get there? So, what were the challenges or problems that you faced off the back of, not having that plan, if you like, and not having those clear, defined goals?
A lack of accountability and a lack of being able to track whether I was doing well or not, because there weren't any data points or markers against a plan where, yes, I've done that, and if I haven't done it, why haven't I done it? What's the block, or what don't I know? What do I need to know to do it? So the accountability piece was key. And actually, I think that relates to the last question as well, as to why did I sort of take the leap into Rocket, was needed to be accountable to someone, because if not, it's just something, as you say, you get so busy doing the day job that unless someone's there going, well, actually, did you sit down and write a 90-day plan? You're like, well, no, because then my email flashed up, so that accountability was key. And I think, yeah.
Yeah. And I think absolutely. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because there you are, CEO of a business, but actually sometimes it doesn't mean that you feel like that CEO of a business, because you're doing that firefighting. You are you're trying to work with what you have in your own head, and as you say, that's only going to take you so far, isn't it? What you don't know, you don't know. And so we can then spend a lot of time with no plan and feeling as though we're busy, but we're not necessarily getting anywhere. What else did you notice in terms of symptoms that, became, if you like, a pain point for you, that you said, right, now is the time. I absolutely have to get this sorted once and for all. Was there anything else that within that was really affecting you, that made you,
I
go,
stopped, I
okay,
stopped,
that's it.
I stopped liking what I was doing. And I think that was because it was like, well, if you're not doing this, Claire, and this is an industry I've been in since leaving university in terms of sort of the energy industries, what are you going to do? And it's like, well, hang on, you used to like doing this. And it just became drudgery, and it's like just yet another day of 4 hours scrolling through LinkedIn. And again, that's no way to live. I'd rather go and do a manual job where at least I get fit or something than have that feeling. So I think there was a very personal dissatisfaction with not just the day to day, but just the fact that I knew it could be so much better. And I don't do fail generally. If I've got an exam to sit, I want an A. And this was a really big example of me just not doing the job properly. And as a result, there wasn't the pride, there wasn't the focus. And so, yeah, that would have been another symptom of why I decided to invest money and time and a new mindset into Rocket.
Yeah, because it can be quite fearful, can't it, when you're at that point as well? You're sort of stuck in that sort of situation where you don't know what the right thing is to go out. And you're right. I mean, there's ourselves and there's other people out there that offer sort of support around this, but there's no guarantee, is there? It's that, okay, are these people the right people or not? I know you said we resonated with you. Was there anything else that sort of tipped you forward to say, right, actually, these are the people for me?
I watched some videos on LinkedIn, and I think that it was interviews with people who were already in the program, and you could just see something had switched on in their heads. They were all excited about their business again.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so let's talk about what changed since you've been on the Rocket program. What have you implemented?
There's so many things. The two biggest thing, the two biggest things are mindset I mean, that's the biggest by a huge degree, and data. Just actually looking at what we were doing and what we were spending time on and what our conversion ratios were, and how good the business actually was, the latent potential of the business anyway. And I think bringing those data points in, I've got quite a kick out of tracking them now and seeing the progress and knowing, as we said before, I didn't know, there was no way of telling if we were doing well or not. So I think the data really helped. And then that then led to the courage to hire more people into the business. So, it's that speculate to accumulate thing. It's like, I can't grow the business unless I've got those people in. It's got to be that way round. And that was also a mindset, taking a risk, more financial investment in order to get to where I want the business to be. So yes, mindset and data were the two biggest things.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it, on the data front, when particularly I think when you're a smaller business, sometimes we think, oh, maybe we don't need that level of detail. I kind of got my fingers on the buzzer. I know what's going on in the business. And where you're in the day to day, you feel like, okay, I think I know what's happening. I can see what the revenue is. But actually, it's when you go underneath that, isn't it? You lift the bonnet and you get actually into the mechanics. It's like having this supercar that you think on the face of it is driving really well. But actually, when you look under the bonnet, you go, oh, actually, that needs tweaking. Or, oh, actually, that needs doing. Because you're right, data gives us so much transparency on how we're going to get to where we're going to get to. So what difference or what was it that you implemented, and how did that free things up for you? What sort of difference did that make on the data front?
Well, it's funny actually, because the data story didn't start well. So
I love it.
I got really frustrated at the beginning, and for anyone that is at this stage, my counsel would be just keep pushing through it. But so obviously one of the biggest exercises you do with Rocket is the business X-ray, where you look at Pareto's law, where 80% of your results are actually coming from 20% of either your clients or a particular sector within one of your clients. So spent a lot of time pulling out data from the last 12 months of all the different roles, which ones was, and could we find a pattern? No, we couldn't find a pattern in function. We couldn't find a pattern in seniority. It was ridiculous. We've tried a reverse business X-ray. What didn't we do? What roles didn't we? That was opaque as well. And at that point, I was thinking, no, this isn't working for me. And so I said, I got quite frustrated with Jane, and Jane's like, hang on a minute, we are totally missing the obvious here. And it turns out that I'd been looking too much into the detail and the data, and she's like, hang on, just take a step back. And then we had a look at some of the ratios in general and about the people who were doing it as in within the business rather than the actual roles themselves. And that threw up some really interesting results, which then, because we were also, I'd hired 2 people already full-time in 2023, and then I've hired another 2 since this year as well, because actually what was happening, that we just didn't have enough boots on the ground. So no wonder our conversion ratios were sort of under 20%. There's no, when I totaled up the amount of live roles, Jane's like, well, where's the hidden army that's actually going to do this? This isn't about your level of service. This is about you don't have a big enough army. And it was like, right, got it. So yes, to anyone that's struggling with business X-ray, it may be a bigger thing that you need to look at than the minutiae. So that as I said, that process led me to hire, quadruple my team effectively. We've gone, triple my team, gone from 2 to sort of 6 now. So we've got a VA sitting in Venezuela now as well. And then all of a sudden we're starting to get a flood of, the ratios are going up. So we're getting more interviews. Well, there's more CVs coming in. So there's more interviews happening. There's more offers happening, and then there's more placements. And we have very long lead times in our business. So it will be maybe 6 months later that a candidate will join a client after we've totally finished our part of it, just because of onboarding expats, etc. So it's taken some time to bleed through into the money in the bank, but it's coming. I can see it through the pipeline, and that's been an absolute revelation. And as you and Nikki call it, shiny squirrelitis, I just constantly go, right, who can I hire next? Who can I hire next? It's like, Claire, stop, get the bank balance up. But, it's starting to flow. So the data led me to triple my team, basically, because the problem wasn't that we were good at what we were doing, it's that we didn't have enough people doing it.
Yeah, and this is the magic of lifting the lid on your business, as you say, and getting into it and seeing what's really going on. And you're right, this is the thing about the business X-ray, is it is very detailed, and at the same time it's the signpost that it gives you, because if you don't go through that exercise, you have no clarity on that. You would never have known that. And so you can look at it from all angles. It really does give you the direction to take your business on, but where those profit levers are, as you're talking about there, which is, okay, where's that army and who do we need? Right people in the right roles. So many businesses have people, but they're not in the right roles in the same way. So, and we only know, like you were saying at the beginning, don't we? We only know what we know. And we even have it ourselves on our business, Nikki and I, we have coaches, because we need somebody else to shine the light on where is that actual block happening, or where are those opportunities that we can really take advantage of. So the data made that difference for you. And then what else have you done off the back of that data? What sort of tools or process or strategy have you put in place that you're now using?
We've got a role tracker now between the team that we all see. And so we have some metrics, like for each role, we're looking at a minimum of 3-4 CVs to be going in and then a certain interview ratio, etc., etc. And those are done on a weekly basis. And because everyone can see everyone else's, that's led to, I wouldn't say a competitive environment isn't quite the right, a more motivated environment, because people can see. Because a bit like me, because again, I've also started to publish the company results, the company turnover, and where we're at in terms of the financial year. And so I think that sort of transparency of data for the team has really motivated them and given them ownership of whether we succeed or not. Whereas before it was all a bit, as you say, under the bonnet. They didn't know what the engine looked like. Whereas now they can see it in black and white, and that's really, really working. And it also gives me a certain amount of protection, especially with 3 brand new hires, that if someone isn't working out, I'm going to see it much, much earlier in data terms, rather than me leading with my heart, because I will have the facts in front of me. Or if someone dips because something's going on in their life, I'm going to see it and I'll be able to help and support, rather than just have a nagging feeling and getting cross that they're not maybe performing as well as they should. So it's made a real difference on team.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because people can shy away from the data feeling like, is that going to be micromanagement? And actually, as you're saying, it can be quite the opposite. It's empowering, it's accountable, and people then take ownership because they understand what's going on. It's like if you're given evidence of something, it makes much more sense to you as the individual, doesn't it? It's like, oh, I understand why this is important then. So it's so powerful to have data and actually, rather than a negative, it's actually much more of a positive and a motivational information to have.
Yes, and there's no reason. Initially, I think I didn't necessarily want to share that with the team, how much companies turning over, and that was wrong. And I think that's where the Rocket community as a wider group, and being on group calls and just hearing other people talk about it, and then talking to Jane about it and posting questions, gave me a lot more security about actually, why wouldn't I do that? Whereas, that really helped. That community, that's something we've not talked about really, but the community where you can ask things that your team aren't going to see, and it's amazing people's willingness to help and share their journey has been really helpful and given me quite a lot of confidence to just be better.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? When you know that you've kind of got that sort of tribe yourself, that community of people that are in the same position as you, going through the same experience as you. And of course, some of them are even further, and then you can get the benefit of those that have taken that action and have that learning and can share that learning with you. It's interesting, isn't it? Because sometimes I wonder, people coming in, do they think, oh, I don't want to share with other recruitment business owners? I'd be interested to know, how did you feel about that initially when you heard, well, there are group calls and there is a community? What was your initial
reticent, certainly, and because everyone's a different size, no one's exactly the same. Some are bigger, some are smaller, some are at just different stages of development. Sometimes you sort of think, I'm just going to ask that question really quietly. And then just as you're thinking about asking the question, someone else asked it, and you're like, brilliant, I didn't have to. But increasingly, I've started answering questions rather than just asking them, which has been hopefully quite useful for people, and just being much more involved in that. I think I was probably a little bit on the sidelines to begin with, which is probably quite natural. But whereas now, if I can help, then I will.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's good to know you've got people on your side, isn't it? Especially when you're going through things where you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone every day. It's good to know that you've got that backing just to support you to, hey, take that next step. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's going to be okay. That's totally right, and that's the mindset piece. It's the JFDI. That's probably the other massive shift. So you've got data, mindset, and just get over yourself and do it, kind of thing. And whether that's asking a question in a group session, or whether it's hiring a new consultant or a VA or publishing the company figures, whatever it is just do it. What's the worst that can happen? And again, the coaching has been amazing on that, because every time I've put an objection up to something, Jane will be like, okay, so talk me through what's the worst that can happen if you do it versus what's the worst that can happen if you don't do it. And every single time, the consequences of not doing it have been more dire and diverse than the consequences of doing it. And that's been a huge learning point.
Yeah, brilliant. So let's talk mindset then. What else has happened for you there? What experiences have you had on that side?
Oh, gosh, how long have you got? I mean, it's belief, isn't it? It's imagining that you're at that point of whatever you define success as and fulfillment, imagining you're already there and how that feels before you're there. So it's the intent, manifesting that, the intention, and acting as if you're already there. And that then it's really odd, but it sort of brings it to you. I'm not making much sense here, I don't think, but
no, you are you absolutely are.
it's like a silly thing. Like my email signature just used to be Claire Tomlin, Managing Director, Clarion Search, and it was relatively understated. And then about a month ago, I changed it and put CEO, and every time I look at it, I'm like, yes, I'm a CEO, I've made it. But I put that on my email signature before I believed it myself, and now I believe it. So that mindset shift of believing it before it's happened has been nuts. I mean, nuts in terms of what's appeared, not just professionally, but personally as well. It's game changer.
Yeah, and it's always an interesting one, because we don't I don't know if we really promote as much, externally to people about how much mindset we actually do in the Rocket community with people, and also how powerful it is. And as you say, it's made big changes for you, as I know, for others. And just having that belief, because that's often what sort of self-sabotages us, doesn't it, and holds us back.
Yeah, and it is that mindset of what happens if you don't do it. You end up in this Groundhog Day of just doing again tomorrow the thing that made you unhappy today. And in order to change that, you have to imagine what tomorrow would feel like if you did something different. And then your brain thinks you've already done it. So when you get to tomorrow, your brain goes, oh, I know what I'm meant to be doing today. I'm meant to be this, that, and the other. And that energy sort of passes to the team, to my kids, to just all around. I'm much more driven, I'm much more balanced, I'm much more optimistic. I mean, I've always been optimistic, but this is a whole new level. This is much more realistic. This is a much more real optimism, and I can see evidence for it every single day. And I think some of the mindset coaching around setbacks and saying, well, what happens if you look at that setback as actually being a gift, because it's going to teach you something that will avoid a wrong turn in the road later. I think that's a very valuable thing as well. And it also plays into this, just do it, because even if it doesn't quite work out the way you intended, at least you're moving forward and you're progressing. So yes, I think there's an awful lot to be said about feeling confident in having your vision, your whether it's your 90-day plan or your much longer term visions of where you want to be in your whole life, not just where the business is. That all ties in with this in terms of optimism and making that a reality, not just a fluffy dream without parameters.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk about all these great things that you've done. What improvements have you seen?
So obviously the team's gone from 2 to 5 within 12 months, which is great, and everyone seems really happy and doing well. I mean, turnover last year was 360 between two of us, and one of them was only sort of made full-time partway through 2023. This quarter, for the Q1, by the time it all flows through the pipeline, I think we will get to about 300 just for the quarter. And my ideal is that we get near 1 million by year end. So that would be nearly a tripling of revenue. And in terms of new business coming down the pipe, new clients, we've had some absolute touches, just totally out of the blue, some of them. That again, some of the clients that we're onboarding with now are huge, and that could be, I mean, that could make 1 million look pretty small. And now obviously that hasn't happened yet, but the fact that we'll go from a turnover of 360 to, I mean, it's certainly going to be over double that, certainly, and it could be even more, is a huge thing. Having relied on one very big client, which is still a very big client, or actually maybe two, there's probably another 2 of those coming, and these are, you know, globally huge businesses. And so that's doubling our client base as well within the industry. And then there's so many other markers. Ratio of CVs to interviews, that's gone well up. In terms of contact with line management rather than just recruitment teams or HR, we've really driven into that, and that's really helped, because it's also helped on the exclusivity piece, because the line management are encouraging the recruiter to look, just go straight to Clarion with this one because it's tricky. So you name a metric and it's up.
Great. How does that make you feel?
Lucky.
I know there's no such thing as luck. Anyone listening to this is going to say, no, that's input, isn't it? That's the work that you've put in.
And it's the small stuff. It's the, you know, sometimes I was like, no, 90-day plan. I'm like, look, I just need to get this client over. Like, I just need, and then you're like, no, remember, tomorrow you have to do something different from today, and you have to just keep walking a step at a time. And you don't realize how far you've walked when you just do one step at a time, until you look back and go, oh my word, look at that. So yes, it's not luck. What it is consistent action, and consistency is key. I think I was guilty before of being here and then having a huge dream there and not seeing the steps particularly, and then just going, oh well, I haven't made that dream, so it's, you know, it's gone, rather than just being a bit more patient and concentrate on one foot in front of the other and then look up, rather than just getting frustrated with a lack of progress. Actually, there's more happening than maybe I was aware of, and again, the data helps with that, because now I can see those little steps. So, but yeah, I'm very grateful.
And anything else you want to share? What's your passing words of wisdom to anybody listening to this who might be in the same position that you were in, you know, before you joined?
JFDI, it's just the best. Do it. You can't grow unless you take a risk. You just can't. So you've just got to step off the cliff and hope there's a ledge or a parachute or someone there that's going to catch you, because there will be, but you've got to just do it and have faith in the process, I think, and just go all in. Just go all in, and it'll happen.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much I really, really enjoyed our chat. Thank you so much for being on today. And if you're listening to this interview, if you want if you want to get the plan of how Claire has got her business to this position, estimated at £1 million this year, triple your revenue, then click on the link below and we will show you how we help recruitment businesses to leverage more opportunities and placements. So click on the button to give you the full plan, the whole map of how we do that. So thank you so much, Claire. It's been an
Thank
absolute
you.
pleasure. Thank you, thank you. And we will see you again on the series. Take care for now.
Bye.